So we're going to talk a little bit on this one in a couple of topics about what's going on in Chicago with ICE operations and with the judges and all of that. Part of this is going to just be a big chunk of educational because people just really don't understand the interplay of what's going on here. So when we say an immigration judge, we are not talking about the federally appointed judges under Article 3 of the Constitution. These are not Article 3 judges. They're not judges in the true sense of the word in the judicial system. These judges are administrative law judges appointed by the Department of Justice themselves. So the Department of Justice appoints administrative law judges, and these administrative law judges have authority, not exclusive, but almost exclusive authority to determine removability, deportability, and excludability of anyone from the United States. So they get to decide whether somebody gets to be removed, deported, or excluded for coming, and these judges get to make those determinations under our system. And they work for the Department of Justice. They don't work for the judiciary directly. They kind of do because their cases are appealable to the district court eventually if there's a good cause, but it has to be really good cause, and the immigration judges are given a lot of leeway to do the right thing. So when we say somebody's going to immigration court, they're going in front of an administrative law judge in the Executive Office of Immigration Review, that is a department of the Department of Justice. So the Executive Office of Immigration Review is sideways, not below or above things like the FBI and the CIA and the Attorney General and all of that. So sideways from that is this department of this Executive Office of Immigration Review that houses judges and reviews immigration cases to decide whether people can be removed, deported, or excluded from being in the United States. These judges do that, and it's their exclusive job to do that, and they're appointed, so they're part of the DOJ. They don't operate out of the federal court buildings. They have their own courts, and they have their own system that they work to adjudicate those cases. So because it's under the system of separation of powers, it's the executive branch that gets to decide these issues of excludability, of deportability and excludability. It's not the judicial branch that gets to decide those issues. Because the executive branch gets to decide those issues, and it's not a judicial concern, this office of this Executive Office of Immigration Review gets to decide all those issues, and they've done it by appointing these immigration judges. People get assigned immigration cases. One of the big ways that the Supreme Court's gotten involved in that, they don't get involved very much, but one of the big ways they get involved in it is they said under the Constitution, people have a liberty right, even if they're here illegally. They have a liberty right under our Constitution. I don't understand why they do, but our Supreme Court, in one of its more liberal moments, said they have a liberty right, even if they're under the Constitution. So if somebody's going to be detained in an immigration processing center, and you can't get them a judicial hearing within 6 months, they must be released into the public and allowed to come back for their hearing. So when you hear about this thing called catch and release that Biden did and Obama did and other people had done, this catch and release program basically is we catch people, we schedule their hearings in front of immigration law judges more than 6 months out, and then because their immigration law judge first hearing is more than 6 months out, we have to release them and just trust them to come back for their immigration law judge hearing. That didn't work well. And when we talk about like Biden and Obama deporting a lot of people, they got a lot of orders of deportation. An order of deportation is an order that people should be deported. It's not an actual deportation. So they haven't been deported. They've been ordered deported and ordered to leave the country within 30 days of their order of deportation. But since they didn't show back up to court and they're defaulted and they're ordered deported, until we find them in some ways, they can't be deported. So part of what Trump's doing is finding people that have come across illegally during Biden's era that they did some catches and releases where they never even got them an immigration court date, so they don't have orders of deportation. But other people are being brought in that do have orders of deportation. And so they're being picked up and they're being brought to processing centers. And really, there's already an order of deportation. So really, we're just processing them and keeping them in a deportation in a processing center long enough to process their deportation and get their home country to agree to take them back. And that's what's happening. Some of these people end up stuck. Like we have a bad relationship with a place called Venezuela, and so Venezuelan citizens get to our processing centers, and they have orders of deportation already on their files because they're here illegally and didn't show up to their hearings, and we'd like to send them back, but we got to negotiate with Venezuela to take their own citizens back. A recent Supreme Court hearing order basically said that we don't have to deport them back to Venezuela. We can deport them to somewhere else if we want. The office, the Executive Office of Immigration Review can start deporting people to other places. We haven't gone there yet. We've done it a few times with really bad people that are causing problems, but we haven't gone there very often yet. But I would say en masse, if these Venezuelan citizens might end up someplace else. A lot of the people that have been bad actors don't even get to go to a Spanish-speaking country. They end up someplace in Africa that's willing to take anybody for us. And so I mean, if Venezuela is not cooperating, their citizens might end up someplace they don't want to be. We're hoping that doesn't happen. The Venezuelans I know are just good people that want to create a better life, and they really don't want to go back to Venezuela, but they definitely don't want to go to Africa. So that's all problematic, but that's neither here or there. But to understand this, the immigration court decides who gets deported and who doesn't get deported. Sideways from that, concurring jurisdiction on some subjects are these district court judges. These are the Article 3 judges. They've been appointed by Congress and gone through the proper channels to be properly vetted and appointed and have lifetime appointments. And it's a big deal to be a district court judge. Some of them, because they have lifetime appointments, can be fairly activist and not doing the right thing. So, and these district court judges have constitutional authority over immigration decisions. So if there's a constitutional problem or a law problem, you can go with the habeas corpus, which basically means body of the matter, in front of a district court judge and try and get your hearing in front of a district court judge to, to have your case, have part of your case at least. I mean, they can't. It's not the deportability issue. You can still be deported, but have part of your case at least moved in a different direction by a district court judge that thinks somehow your rights or due process rights or something was violated. So now we're in Chicago. ICE is in Chicago. They're moving around. They're moving in the illegal immigrant community, and they're moving a lot of people quickly. They're capturing a lot of people quickly. And this is happening, and and so a certain kind of activist judge, Jeffrey Cummings, looks at a consent decree that basically says we're not going to arrest people anymore without looking for and providing proper documentation that they're able to be arrested and detained under the 1996 Clinton Immigration Enforcement Act that Clinton passed, which is the law. The law we're doing is Clinton's law. We'll eventually explain the immigration laws that Clinton passed, and what Trump's doing is completely legal because it's what Clinton passed and wanted to do, and nobody ever fully enforced it. So we're doing what Bill Clinton wanted to do to empty the country of our illegal citizens. Not citizens, illegal immigrants, and that Obama started to do, and then he wouldn't close the border, so it eventually fell apart. He started doing the catch and release thing also. So we're in the middle of this, and there's this activist judge. His name is Jeffrey Cummings, U.S. District Court. He's out of Chicago, and on November 12th, he basically said, because of how these people were arrested and detained and taken to these processing centers. It wasn't the right process, so he was going to bond them out. He's going to allow them to pay $1,500. They're going to put the little ankle bracelet thing on so we can track them, and he's going to bond them out and let them stay out until their immigration hearings are coming. That's where we're at right now. In order for that to happen, he has to first have an individualized hearing for all 614 of these people that he agreed to bond out, because the government has the right to prove that they are a danger to the community or safety and awareness of a community, and they have the right to bring that stuff in and through that bonding hearing keep people detained if they can show that by preponderance of the evidence that leaving these people out in the open is just going to hurt the community in some meaningful way. So those hearings are going on. So far, a few people are being released on these bonds. The interesting thing is that these people are being bonded by this judge, and the judge is, signing these bonding orders, and they'll give a copy of this bonding order directly to the family, and then ICE and the DOJ has to provide it to the facility that are housing these detainees, and oftentimes the families are driving right to these processing centers, and they're there demanding having their person released with that bonding paper in their hand, and the processing centers are getting a lot of grief because they can't leave until they get the official certified copy from the judge from ICE showing that these people can be released. But these people are being released every day now that the judge bonds them out. He has to have an individualized hearing. It's going to take him a long time to get through it, but he thinks those 614 arrests were wrongful. And so that's going on with Judge Cummings. Judge Cummings. That's going on with Judge Cummings, and he's bonding people out. The interesting thing is ICE was talking about slowing down their Chicago operations, but because Cummings did that, they doubled the number of ICE officers in Chicago, and they said for every person Cummings bonds out, they're going to arrest 3 more people and take them to detention facilities. So it's a really fun Mexican standoff type of thing. We're gonna every time you release somebody, we're going to give you 3 more people on your docket to try and bond out. So it's very interesting the interplay behind here, because the immigration law judges do not like being interfered with. They want their jurisdiction. They want to be able to deport people. They want to be able to decide these issues. Every time a district court judge interferes with that, it's a big problem, especially because the immigration law judges that are in charge of these people are mostly in Michigan, and these detainees are mostly in Michigan, and these judges in Chicago, where these people came from, are claiming jurisdiction over these people that are being held in Michigan. So there's the ICE and DOJ's questioning jurisdiction on whether or not this is even the correct jurisdiction, whether when your person that's detained is removed from your jurisdiction, do you still have standing to decide, or do those people really need to file in the Western or Eastern District Court of Michigan to have these issues decided? So the interplay of all this is very judicially interesting. As you know, I'm a pastor and a chaplain right now, but I'm also a lawyer. I'm a certified lawyer, licensed lawyer. So it's very interesting to me, all of the interplay between this. So that's one of the judicial things going on. The other judicial thing going on in Chicago is there has been a 1,300% increase of violent attacks against ICE agents, and most of this is happening with cars. People are just ramming ICE agents in the street while driving on purpose, and really harming our ICE agents, and we're trying to get this under control. And so there's an interplay between Chicago Police Department, the mayor who says don't come here, and now Trump's probably, because this is happening, going to have to surround every ICE agent with National Guard, because Chicago Police Department's not protecting our ICE agents while they're there. The ICE agents are armed and all that, but they're not going to start shooting up a car. So we might have to have National Guard there just to protect ICE agents. And this is happening in a place called the Little Village. It's a Hispanic area of Chicago where they're going to pick up people. People are intentionally just ramming people. These people are going to get arrested. They're going to have felony records. And, if they're immigrants and they're here legally, they're going to be deported because you can't have a felony record and stay. but it's all sorts of crazy. So part of that's partly protesting for use of force. ICE has a legal right to use force when arresting people, and the judges keep getting offended that when people are protesting, throwing stuff like bricks and things like that at ICE agents are pummeling them with bean bags or putting tear gas out, and you know what I mean. And the the mock process. So you need to look it up. It's defensive tactics, and it's called mock MACH process. They're doing the correct process for taking somebody down, arresting them, and putting handcuffs on. It's not. It looks extremely violent, but it's the least violent way to do it when somebody's fighting you. I mean, they're doing it properly. They're carrying them off properly. They're not injuring people, but it looks offensive. And so this activist judge, um, um, activist judge Sarah Ellis, rules that because there are use of force problems in her jurisdiction in northern Illinois, which includes all of Chicago, that ICE agents now have to wear body cameras and give sufficient warning, whatever she meant by that, before using any kind of violence or tear gas against people that are rioting against ICE. And so she ruled that, and everyone's like, yeah, we finally got a victory against ICE. And the DOJ immediately appealed that to the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Appeals immediately said, no, you can't do that. You cannot micromanage how we do our federal police. Even the federal courts can't micromanage how we do our federal police. And so there's this increased violence thing that's going on in Chicago, and we have a couple of activist district court judges there that these people are getting in front of. There are attorneys, from Chicago going to these detention centers and signing up, hundreds of these Chicago detainees at a time to do habeas corpus petitions, taking their money, trying to get them out on bond, and telling them that it can try and protect them. But it can protect them temporarily, but even if they get out on bond on an ankle tether, the first time they disobey that, they're going to be back in and be deported. And then ICE isn't prevented from arresting these people for other reasons. So if they're out and they're still illegal and they catch them working and making money somewhere, they can be rearrested and taken back to the deportation center. So letting them out might be helpful, because I don't mind these guys being bonded out. Spend some time with your family, but you really need to think about leaving, because you are not going to be able to work while you're out. You're not going to be able to participate in any meaningful way in society, because ICE knows where you live. They've arrested you before, and they're gonna know where you're out. If they believe you should be deported, and it doesn't stop your case, you're still going to have a hearing within a few weeks, 2-3 weeks, and you're going to need a deportation order. And if you are bonded out and you don't show up for that hearing, ICE knows where you're at, because you're bonded out with an ankle bracelet, and you're going to be detained immediately after that hearing, taken back in and putting on a plane home. So it's a very harsh reality these guys are going through, but we have to clean up the immigration mess that it's causing our country. And I know people are caught in this dragnet, and it's tearing families apart. And as a chaplain, I pray for them, and I ask for God for their liberty, and I ask God to do the right thing for them. I ask God's will be done in the situation. As a lawyer and a citizen of the United States, I understand that our government needs to clean the mess up. The Bible says that we should support our government and what they do. And when Jesus said that, he was talking about the Roman government that was about to crucify him. Okay? So it's not like Jesus, when he said, and when Paul said, obey your governments, or your government masters and the government that's over you, and treat them with respect and honor. It's not like he was talking about some really cushy government that was really great to the Jewish people and to the Christian citizens. He was talking about the Roman Empire, and those Christians during the Roman Empire literally honored that government all the way up into the time they were eaten by lions. I mean, they wouldn't bow down to them and call them God or anything, but they always obeyed them, and they willingly went in front of lions because they knew that was the punishment for the crimes they were committing. Most of them just didn't fight that. Like Jesus didn't fight going to the cross. Did he deserve to go to the cross? No, but he was obedient to the government authorities. And so, if we're going to be Christian, we need to make sure these Hispanic people that we're trying to convert to Christ or are already Christians understand that they're in the United States, and if they're going to be here, they got to be obedient to government authorities, and that includes the right to even live in the United States. You know what I mean? You have to get permission to move across borders and to stay in a country, and if you don't have that permission as a Christian, you should be obeying. And I hate that it tears apart families, but it's the right thing to do eventually. One of my positions as a chaplain is that we should very carefully make sure to give these people the equipping and funding even that they need to create a new life when they go back home as Christians, and to connect with Christ and connect with churches, so that when they go into this new life after they've been here for so long, that they're able to have a sustainable and good life for them and their families. And I feel bad about them leaving, but man, we need to act like a Christian nation and get our missionaries and our people together to support these people. And that's one of the reasons I'm a chaplain, is that I really want to help these people in a really spiritual and physically meaningful way. So, but that's my bit on the Chicago and the Chicago violence. Violence is way up, and judges, rather than supporting ICE, are interfering in ICE operations, and it's just not going to get better until judges say, let's let the immigration court do what the immigration court should be doing. So thank you, and if you've watched this far, man, please subscribe to my channel. It opens up a lot when we get 1,000 subscribers, and I know I just started this a couple weeks ago, but we're going to probably move pretty quickly, and I'd love to see it get to 1,000 subscribers fairly quickly, because that would open me up to be able to provide a lot more content and a lot more help to people that with information like this that need the help that I have information on that I can bring. Thanks a lot for viewing.